Okay, start. Okay, so um, I know I kind of have the title up there. I was gonna start off by saying, who of you guys are addicted to something? It could be good. It should be good. Okay, so me myself, I'm addicted to chocolate. I love chocolate. I just can't help it. So, what I'm gonna start off is I'm gonna talk about drug addiction. How let's talk about the effects on drug addiction, uh, and if preventions, how how you can overcome it, and things like that. So, um, the reason why I want to talk about drug addiction is because of the fact that it's something that's out there, and although we might have things like gun control and other stuff going on in the world that we are now focused on, we really don't focus on drug addiction and how it usually affects the youth and how it starts off when we're usually in high school or somewhat like that, and then it goes and it takes over our lives pretty much. So I actually had a friend in high school who started off, you know, with a bit of some alcohol, some drug use, and then eventually over the time, you know, um, he wasn't feeling that same high, so um, he increased the highness of it, I guess, and became an addict. But he got help. He's okay. But he did kind of went through a lot of hard moments, and he almost faced death because of it. But I guess now he learned his lesson and he's out of it. Um, so, what is drug addiction? Drug addiction is really a complex brain disease. So, a lot of people think that, oh, drug addiction is only mental and you're an addict because you want to be, not because, you know, because there's no connection towards it. But there actually is. It's a complex because of the fact that a lot of people don't really understand why it's going on. So so drug addiction gives uncontrollable urges and cravings to the drug. As a result, the drug seeker becomes compulsive, meaning he's always going to seek for it. Another thing is for others, drug addiction becomes chronic, meaning so after treatments, a lot of people relapse, and after no use, you can go a whole year without it, and they usually still go back and use it. Um, how bad can it be? Well, drugs have negative effects physically and mentally. According to the teenhealth.org, drug abuse causes change in the body and brain. Some of the effects are respiratory problems, heart problems, loss of memory, uh, neurological damage, mental health disorder, and some mood, such as mood disorders and overdose and death. But these depend on what kind of drugs you take. So it's not like all drugs can cause this, but most of them they do. Drugs are bad. Um, well, yeah. Um, can one overcome the addiction? The answer is yes. It takes counseling, group therapy, and medications. So so with a lot of counseling, good people telling you. Usually, friends also can be a nice resource of counseling. Group therapy and medications. Well, there's usually some medications that help. Well, doctors say that the best way to get rid of the addiction is by giving medications and helping the patient move on with his life. Um, a lot of times when um, what you guys heard, I hope so, that that sometimes the addict goes through withdrawal and it's like the worst phase of their life. So what are the effects on the brain from consuming drugs? So drugs have chemicals that interfere with the brain's communication system and disrupts the way nerves send and receive messages. A person consumes more drugs. As a person consumes more drugs, they increase the number of dopamine. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter that conditions us to do things we need to do. So, what are drugs and what do they do to the brain? So, what they do is, so we have these neurotransmitters, right, that send messages to the brain, and so I guess the more drugs you give your body, the more dopamine you give to the brain. So the more you take these drugs, the more dopamine you're giving to the brain. Uh, so why is it addicting? So pretty much it's saying that drugs become so addicting because drugs produce an overwhelming surge of dopamine. So that's what I was saying previously, that the more you consume drugs, the more your dopamine increases. As the brain increases the amount of dopamine, the brain feels it will need more of that dopamine. So we're pretty much giving this artificial dopamine in our brain. So when we give that artificial dopamine, our brain feels like that artificial dopamine is normal. And but when you feel like you don't feel that same high, which is dopamine, you want to increase that amount, and that's the cause of becoming addicted. In conclusion, drugs is more than just drug addiction is just more than just the what's it called a behavior or a willpower to quit. Drug addiction affects the brain, and it is a complex disease that can take over someone's life if it isn't taken care of. So I have a video to show you guys more of what drugs do. Our brains are composed of networks of billions of tiny nerve cells. Signals break around these networks, causing a gap between the nerve cells and these chemical messengers. One network is dedicated to making us feel good when we do something that is essential for survival, such as eat, drink, or have sex. Normally, when this network is activated, the nerve cells in it release the feel-good chemical messenger, dopamine. Dopamine travels across the gap from one nerve cell to the receptors from its neighbor, triggering a chain reaction which makes you feel good. This dopamine then returns to the nerve cell that released it for further use. Cocaine hijacks the feel-good network in the brain. It causes huge increases in the amount of dopamine throughout the network, flooding the brain with feel-good chemicals. And it also stops the dopamine returning to the nerve cells that release it, meaning more and more dopamine. Cocaine blocks something called dopamine transfer. What that does is it locks up dopamine that sits in space between the two cells. And if that reuptake is blocked, what we get is an awful lot of dopamine floating around this space. The flow of dopamine sends the feel-good network in the brain into overdrive, producing a sense of euphoria and self-assurance, making the user more animated and social. Oops. Sorry. So now that we have a deeper understanding of what drugs do, so now I guess if you guys have friends or family that are in drugs deep, now we know what they're going through and what causes them to be an addict, and not just saying, oh, you're just an addict because you like the drug. No, it's because of the fact that they feel that sensation in their brain and they want more of it. So thank you guys.